The scheme is the same as Stromberg's. The demeanor is similar to Stromberg. Hell, even the villain archetype of a rich industrialist was done way before either villain had existed. So, what was it about Hugo Drax that makes him better in a silly movie than the lackluster villain in a great movie? Well, what Hugo Drax lacks in originality, he makes up for with presence. Where Stromberg looked like the grandpa who just couldn't be bothered, Drax, on the other hand, is cold, almost to the point of being inhuman. He's the sort of man who has no problem sicking his dogs on a traitorous assistant while hunting pheasant in a cavalier fashion. He can mop up a contaminated laboratory and then stick around to mock Bond as he looks dumbfounded. And what's more, Drax's motivations clearly derive from his profound God complex. This is a man who wants nothing more than total control of everything around him, and nothing will satisfy him short of having the power to wipe out the human race, save for the select few he considers fit to repopulate his new utopia. He even initiates a plan from a hidden space station so he can appropriately bring down judgment from above. In fact, when you think about it, short of Blofeld, Drax is one of the few Bond villains who takes his aspirations of divinity to such a grand extreme. Of course, the one problem with people who aspire to be a god is that the closer they think they are to achieving these goals, in reality, the further they drift from it. Drax is convinced that Bond is nowhere near a credible threat, even with mounds of evidence to the contrary. Against all the odds, Bond is facing Drax down on his space station, and yet Drax still believes Bond to be inferior. While that does effectively make Drax something of an idiot, that doesn't make him any less interesting or entertaining as a villain. After all, we all love seeing someone who's full of himself get taken down a peg or two, particularly in this case where, I gotta admit, Drax is probably one of the best villain deaths in the history of Bond. Seriously, that death is so good, it motivates me to do a double VEMBER later on, entirely comprised of the best villain deaths. So, while Drax is a repeat of an overdone villain archetype, he's at least an interesting one because of his sinister demeanor, juxtaposed with his grandiose madness.